Have you ever walked into a room, said nothing, yet everyone turned to look at you with silent respect? It wasn't because of power, status, or loud words, but because of a calm presence so deep, others felt small in comparison. In today's chaotic and competitive world, the true way to rise above isn't by beating others, but by mastering yourself from within. In this video, you'll discover 10 powerful keys inspired by Stoic philosophy, designed to make you sharper, calmer, and quietly dangerous in a way no one sees coming. Not through arguments, but through awareness. Not by being loud, but by being unshakable. Ready to begin? Let's dive in. 1. Control your reactions. Master your response. Master your life. Imagine this. You're standing in the middle of an angry crowd. They're insulting you, mocking you, trying to provoke you. All eyes are on you, waiting to see how you'll respond. In that moment, you have two choices: react impulsively like everyone else, or pause, observe, and stay silent, like a Stoic sage. A true Stoic chooses the second. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If someone does you wrong, it's because you've allowed it to affect you." Real power doesn't lie in striking back, but in not needing to. When you control your reactions, you control yourself. And when you control yourself, no one else can. Reacting is natural, but conscious responding is a skill that begins with creating a small space between the trigger and the action. In that space, you choose. Will you let emotion drive you, or will you let reason take the lead? In a world where most people respond instantly and emotionally, the one who pauses and reflects stands out. They can't be manipulated, they can't be provoked, and that makes them quietly dangerous. No one can disturb your peace unless you hand them the key. That's the quiet strength Stoicism teaches us. Words don't hurt you unless you let them. Insults, criticisms, mockery, they are powerless unless you assign them meaning. So the next time someone tries to get under your skin, smile. Because you know, the one who remains calm in chaos, the one who doesn't flinch, doesn't fight back, doesn't lower themselves, is the one truly in control. And in this life, control over yourself is the greatest power of all. 2. Practice strategic silence. When you say nothing, you say the most. They expect a reaction. They want a response, an explanation. They crave your attention to pull you into their emotional chaos. But you don't give it to them. You stay silent, and that's when you are strongest. In a world where everyone is talking, posting, reacting in real time, the one who chooses silence becomes mysterious and powerful. Silence isn't ignorance. Silence is awareness with restraint. It's knowing exactly what's happening and choosing not to respond. Epictetus once said, "Let your ears listen twice as much as your mouth speaks." Silence is a strategy. It's how you observe, read the room, analyze intentions, and prepare your position. During that silence, something extraordinary happens. You begin to gather strength, not the kind that shouts, but the kind that grows slowly, quietly, unshakably. This isn't passive silence, it's deliberate. You choose not to react. You choose not to explain. You choose to stay grounded while others lose themselves. Those who talk too much often reveal their weaknesses, but the one who speaks little and watches everything controls the board. In every conversation, there is one who speaks the most and one who holds the power. They are rarely the same person. Practicing silence doesn't mean avoiding conflict, it means choosing your battles. It means saving your words until they carry weight, not just noise. And when the time comes to speak, just one sentence spoken from deep calm, it can silence an entire room because it wasn't spoken in haste, it was born in clarity. You don't need to be loud to be respected. You only need to know when to speak and when to remain silent. 3. Observe instead of reacting. Don't strike first, see the whole board. Most people do the opposite. They react before they even understand what's happening. A dirty look, a sarcastic comment, a moment of disrespect, and instantly they snap, retaliate, lose control. But the Stoic does something different. They don't react, they observe. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more from our imagination than from reality." In other words, it's not what happens to you that causes pain, it's how you interpret it. When you train yourself to observe first, you become powerful in a way no one sees coming. You don't get pulled into emotional chaos. You start seeing patterns, motivations, weaknesses, all while remaining anchored in stillness. Observation is the art of intentional delay. It's stepping back to see the whole board. Like a general on a hilltop, you're not caught in the noise, you're reading the battlefield. The moment you react instantly, you hand over control. But when you observe, you hold the reins. You can no longer be easily triggered because now you understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. They want it. They want a reaction, but all they get is your quiet smile. You're not cold, you're not detached, you're just too aware to be fooled by surface appearances. While they look for a fight, you're seeing the game. While they raise their voice, you raise your awareness. And that is how you win without ever needing to swing. Observation is the foundation of wisdom, and the one who sees clearly leads silently. 4. Avoid pointless arguments. Walk away when others want you trapped in chaos. You don't need to win an argument to win at life. In today's world where everyone is desperate to be right, social media has become a battlefield of bruised egos. One wrong sentence, one unpopular opinion, and suddenly people are at each other's throats as if their entire identity depends on it. But the Stoic understands something deeper. Not every battle is worth fighting. And sometimes silence is the wisest response of all. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. You don't need to prove you're smart. You don't need to correct everyone. You don't need to tear others down just to feel above them. Pointless arguments drain your energy, rob your peace, and sometimes cost you your dignity." The Stoic doesn't avoid truth. They simply choose their battlefield. They understand that some people aren't seeking truth. They're seeking victory. And if you enter that game, you've already lost. When you walk away from an argument, you're not losing. You're liberating yourself. Liberating yourself from emotional traps, from toxic words, from the burden of always needing to be right. Not every question deserves an answer. Not every insult deserves a reply. And not every confrontation is your responsibility. Arguing with a fool doesn't make you wise. It only makes you tired. You rise above, not by outshouting them, but by outlasting them with dignity. True strength isn't in fighting every battle. True strength is in knowing when to walk away, with your peace still intact. 5. Don't seek validation. When you no longer need approval, you become truly respected. We grow up in a world that teaches us you only matter if others approve of you. Likes, praise, attention. We chase them as if they are the fuel that keeps us alive. But the Stoic walks a different path. They don't need validation from others because they've already validated themselves. Epictetus once said, "If you praise me, it doesn't make me better. If you criticize me, it doesn't make me worse." True freedom begins the moment you stop depending on how others see you. You're no longer controlled by stares, comments, or applause. You begin to live by your internal values, not by society's shifting expectations. That's why Stoics may seem detached, distant, or mysterious. Not because they lack emotion, but because they've outgrown the need to be admired. And when you no longer crave recognition, you become dangerous. Because no one can flatter you into submission, and no one can shame you into silence. You act not to impress, but because it's the right thing to do, even if no one claps. And here's the paradox. The moment you no longer seek respect, that's when people begin to respect you the most. Because real strength doesn't need a stage, and real worth doesn't ask for applause. You don't need to be the center of attention, you just need to be the center of your own being. 6. Let results speak for you. Prove nothing, but show everything. You've probably seen it. People constantly talking about what they plan to do. They announce their goals, they seek attention, they crave recognition before they've even begun. But the Stoic takes another path. They let their results speak louder than any words ever could. Marcus Aurelius never bragged about being emperor. He just lived like one, with discipline, humility, and silent strength. That's what true leaders do. They don't say they're strong, they become it, and others feel it. In a noisy world full of self-promotion, silence becomes a strategy. The less you explain yourself, the more powerful your actions become. When you move quietly without trying to impress, the impact is deeper, more lasting. Because the truth is, results are undeniable. You don't need to convince anyone when the proof is in what you've built, what you've endured, and how you carry yourself. The Stoic knows that talking too much drains energy, energy that could be used to build, to focus, to grow. Instead of announcing their intentions, they plant seeds. They water them in silence, and then they harvest in front of a world that thought they'd forgotten. Your work, your consistency, your transformation, these are your legacy, not the promises, not the likes, not the applause. So let others speak, let others boast. You, you stay busy doing the work. And when the moment comes when people finally notice, it's not because you asked them to, it's because your presence, your discipline, your results made it impossible to ignore. Let others talk, let your actions echo, because the loudest statement you'll ever make is the one you never had to say out loud. 7. Live simply, think deeply. Strip away the noise, find the depth. Look around you. The world is louder than ever. More things to buy, more opinions to react to, more noise demanding your attention every second. But here's the truth the Stoics knew well: a cluttered life creates a cluttered mind. Seneca warned us it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. Simplicity isn't about having nothing, it's about needing less so you can focus on more. More reflection, more depth, more mastery over your thoughts. The Stoic doesn't chase status symbols or shallow pleasures. They value quiet rooms, books that challenge them, moments of solitude where the mind sharpens like a blade. They understand that true strength doesn't come from what you add to your life, but from what you're willing to let go of. The world tells you to accumulate. Stoicism tells you to eliminate distractions, ego, unnecessary desires. Because in simplicity, clarity is born. And with clarity comes power, the kind that can't be bought, only cultivated. When you live simply, your mind stops running in circles. You're no longer consumed by comparison. You begin to hear your own thoughts clearly. You begin to direct your life consciously, not reactively. A Stoic life isn't dull, it's deliberate. Every habit chosen, every object purposeful, every moment lived with intention. You stop impressing others and start aligning with yourself. Simplicity is not emptiness, it's depth without distraction. And in that quiet space, you'll find the kind of focus and fulfillment the world forgot how to feel. 8. Don't be ruled by others' emotions. Protect your inner fortress. Someone raises their voice at you, their anger flares, their frustration spills out. They want a reaction, they need one, because the moment you react, they win. They've pulled you into their chaos, but you don't move, you don't flinch, you remain still, like stone in a storm. That's Stoicism. Epictetus said, anyone capable of angering you becomes your master. Why? Because the moment they can trigger you, they own you. They control your state, your behavior, your peace. And peace is not something a Stoic gives away easily. You don't need to match someone's anger with more anger. You don't need to raise your voice just because theirs is louder. You don't need to absorb what isn't yours to carry. The Stoic stands in emotional storms like a mountain stands against wind, unshaken. Not because they're cold, but because they've done the work to protect what matters most, their inner fortress. That calm place inside you, it's sacred. Letting others pollute it with their fear, their rage, their immaturity is the real loss. So the next time someone lashes out, asks for your rage, invites you into their emotional fire, decline the invitation. Not with words, but with presence. Remain composed. Breathe slowly. Watch, not to judge, but to understand, because you'll learn more in your silence than they ever will in their shouting. And soon, they'll realize something unsettling. They can't touch you because you're no longer reactive. You're responsive, and only to what truly matters. Emotional discipline is strength, and the one who controls themselves can never be controlled by anyone else. 9. Focus on what you can control, where your power truly begins. Most people spend their lives worrying about things they cannot change: the weather, the opinions of others, the past, the future. They try to control the uncontrollable and wonder why they feel exhausted, anxious, and powerless. But the Stoic knows better. Power doesn't come from controlling the world. It comes from mastering the only thing that was ever yours to control: yourself. Epictetus said it simply: some things are up to us and some things are not. Wisdom begins with knowing the difference. You cannot control how others treat you, but you can control how you respond. You cannot control the outcome of every situation, but you can control the effort, the attitude, the discipline you bring to it. That's where your strength is, in the small, consistent choices made every day. A Stoic doesn't waste energy trying to bend reality to their will. Instead, they align themselves with reality and adapt. They don't pray for the storm to stop. They prepare their mind to sail through it. When life throws chaos, the Stoic asks, what part of this is within my control? Then they focus there, relentlessly, quietly, without complaint. And when you start living like this, grounded in what you can influence, you become lighter, calmer, stronger. The world may stay messy, but your mind, it becomes a place of order. So while others fight the wind, you master the sail. While they curse the rain, you tend your garden. And as they obsess over things far beyond reach, you stay rooted in what matters most: your thoughts, your choices, your character. That's where your true power lives. Not out there, but in here. 10. Become the dangerous silent one. Let the world feel your presence, not your noise. There's a certain kind of power that doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't crave recognition. It simply walks into the room and everyone feels it. That's the power of the silent one. Not the loudest voice, not the flashiest presence, but the one who holds stillness like a sword. The Stoics understood this kind of presence. Marcus Aurelius didn't conquer minds with speeches. He conquered them with calm. Still, clear, focused. Because when you stop trying to prove yourself to others, you start becoming someone others can't ignore. People often mistake silence for weakness. Let them. They expect you to react, to explain, to overcompensate, and yet you say nothing. You just continue forward with quiet precision. You don't argue, you don't beg, you don't chase. You become untouchable. Not by hiding, but by rising above. The silent one doesn't lack depth. They've simply buried it deep, under discipline, principle, and peace. They don't need to intimidate. Their presence does that for them. They don't need to be feared. They're respected because they do not flinch. And when you embody this kind of energy, people stop testing you. They start watching you, studying you, wondering how someone can remain that centered in a world so loud, so reactive, so needy. You don't need to explain your mindset. You don't need to defend your silence. You just live it.